right at the last second there. Good reminder. So it's all yours, Coach. Please take over.
Well, thank you so very much, Taylor. And again, I've actually been on a couple of these sessions and have been blown away. So to all the great things that Football Alberta has always done, this ranks up there with some of the best. And so thank you for taking your time to allow me the opportunity to share with you. And I look forward to it. Challenging at best, if you think about it, because defensive systems, wow, we could spend a week. Give us 100 hours and we could still be talking. So I try to narrow some things down, but I also wanted to be very cognizant that we have all different levels. And Taylor, again, thank you for that nice introduction. I don't ever want to leave something for granted that somebody knows you. And so please let me introduce myself. Born and raised in New Jersey. I'm a American by birth, Canadian by choice. Not a lot of people can say that, and I'm very proud to say that. But I grew up in the state of New Jersey, played all the sports, and had an opportunity to get a scholarship to go to North Carolina State. Very successful time there, as well as playing. I had the opportunity to play for Lou Holtz. It was quite a treat. For the 4 years he was at State, and then he went on to obviously win a national championship at Notre Dame. But had the opportunity then to come up to Canada, where I where I met my wife, and we got married a number of years later. But I played in the NFL and the CFL, and I have coached on the high school level, university, professional level. As you can see, the reason not to have the video on, because I look better with a hat on. When you take the hat off on the two bottom corner ones, that's me as director of officiating. And what a great lesson that was. They allowed the football man to come into a territory that is never usually have football people in. Usually you have to be a referee, been around for a long time, then you become director of officiating. Well, I had the opportunity to learn quite a bit. I had the opportunity to go in and teach the officials about football, and they taught me all about officiating. And we can't play this game without officials. And there are always three teams on the field. And one of the officials sometimes are just held to a different standard. The moment that they make a mistake, they're called bums. When I first took over as director of officiating, I actually asked a question, and there were 60 officials in the room. I said, has anybody been thanked when they officiated a game and left? And there were so very few hands, and I thought how sad that is, because we need to then develop officials. And one of the ways we can do that is, when you do have the opportunity to talk to your young players, they have an opportunity that they can give back. And if they can't play on the university level and they still love the game, they can definitely be get involved in officiating or administrator, or even become a coach. And so I just wanted to share those couple of things with you. What was fascinating is I've had now almost over, it's going on 45 years of coaching and playing, and being involved with the CFL was over 36 years because there's 6 years with the officiating. So I was very fortunate, and I got cut and fired over 10 times. Something I'm pretty proud of. Very few people have double digits when it comes to that kind of failure. Although I don't consider it failure, my thought is you never fail until you stop trying. Choice is not chance, determines destiny. So I've been out of football for a little bit, and people have asked, oh, you must be retired. And then the answer is, I can never retire because I never worked a day in my life. You have to have worked in order to retire. And so I feel very fortunate, obviously. And last time I was fired was with the Montreal Alouettes. And I came back to Calgary and figured, I needed to do something. So I'm going to stay involved in football. So my wife said I finally got intelligent enough that I started my own business, so that the only person that can fire me is myself. And so it's the Canadian Football Academy. we do combines and leaderships, and we do coaches clinics, and we most recently started Nike Coach of the Year coaching clinics in Canada, and we have summer camps. And so if you like, we're on all three of the social medias, and you can find us if you like. But I couldn't be more thrilled to have the opportunity to go back and coach with the Green and Gold. Just happens to be the University of Alberta. But I'm with one of my former players, Chris Morris, who was an offensive lineman. We won a Grey Cup together, and said, would you be interested coming on up and being the defensive coordinator? I said, absolutely. That was really a no-brainer. The other thing that's really nice about this is I'm very grateful that Taylor put me ahead of Pat Sheehan. Because if I were Pat, I would be jumping on to see what Tom has to say, because are there any clues onto how he is going to actually run his defense? Because they were very unorthodox last year. And so I can tell Pat, if you're on, it won't be that unorthodox. It'll be something a little easier to understand, because when I was watching it, it was, they were all over, and they obviously had some success with it. What we're going to cover is, these are the sections, and I'm going to come at you in a couple of different ways. And what I mean by this is I have a bunch of different hats that I have worn. I've been an assistant GM, a general manager. I've been a head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. Believe it or not, I was the offensive coordinator for the Calgary Stampeders many years ago. Larry Kaharick was the head coach, and Jeff Tedford and I coached the offense. Now, as an offensive coordinator, coaching the offensive line, it doesn't mean that you call the plays. Jeff Tedford called the plays. I just did the organization and helped. So, I mean, and no one person does anything. That you just given a title, so those are what your responsibilities are. So I'm going to talk as a head coach, but also as someone who's been on both sides of the ball. I have a couple of pet peeves, and I will let you know what those are. Here's how I'm going to deem a success. You only have to come away with two different thoughts that you could possibly use this year, and we were successful in doing what we wanted to do. And so after each one of the sections, except the EDDs, but I'll let you actually do it as well, because before you signed in, before I got started, you know that you can go to the chat and put a question down. So after each one of these sections, I will stop, and Taylor will see if we have any questions that are there. At the very end, we'll also stop and be done, obviously. And then if there's some questions that come to mind, I will stay on as long as the one person wants to chat. So you're thinking offensive information and terminology? Yeah. Even in the pros, even with a CFL team or an NFL team, which I've had the opportunity to experience, you need to talk about the offense. One of the things that I've come across, which really fascinates me, is that the offense has different terminology than what the defense does, and you actually practice against one another. Why wouldn't you want to have the same terminology? Because then it's easier to talk to one another. The other thing that is going to happen with all of these is that what I would like to do, and if you will allow me, is to tell you why I think some of the things should be the way they are. Now, whether you change or not makes no matter. As a head coach, I want every one of my position coaches to have an EDD. EDD is everyday drills. Now, this is one that I've used, and actually I can use this one slide, and we can spend over 2 hours on this slide. And so if you just allow me to go through, and what these little boxes are, I would actually check them off as I do it, and I put a date on it. But obviously this is something that you can do in your warm-up. Everything should be dynamic stretching. But if I were to do foot fire, which is just a real quick movement with your feet, I might not do the shuffle or karaoke for that day, but I might do dummy work or ladder work. One-step reaction is something. So now we're starting to move, and I'll start to get a little bit more complicated in our movements and skills, but I'll have a wave drill or I'll do a 4-cone drill. And so what I do is I actually do have a plan when I go on out. So with all of these from 1 all the way down to 8 is an opportunity for movement that a linebacker would have. Now, again, just as a reminder, you will have access to every one of these slides. So do not feel that you have to do a lot of writing. I think just write down something. If I say one thing that's good that you write down, then that's one of the two things that you get to take away. And so as we get down to 9, what's happening now is how are we going to deliver a blow and how do we shed blocks, which linebackers need to do. What's also you should be interested in is how I do it. I break the skill down that I don't have to worry about footwork. I actually go to our knees to start teaching extension. Then I do footwork and then how to finish from hand shivers. Forearm shivers, I still do on my knees. And I still want, you know what, you're thinking this is so old school. Forearm is you're lifting with the forearm, but you're rolling your hips. You still need to know how to do that to disengage and finish. So now we're talking here, tackling. These are the different ways in which we can possibly tackle. Talk a little bit more about it. In coverage, I'm going to do man-to-man or zone coverage. One of the things most defensive players, a lot of times the defensive back is in a defensive back position because he can't catch the ball, but he can run real fast. Catching the football is important. And then I do read and reaction, blitz and stunt. Throw by is if a offensive lineman's coming out to block you as a linebacker and he is just like a bull in the china cabinet, just wash him on by. And these are other things that are important as far as I feel was fumble, open field coverage, open field blocking, because you know that you're probably most of your linebackers going to do that. This is something that I required all my coaches to have. It doesn't have to look like this, but I want to see a progression that they have and how they're going to teach. I know there's some coaches that allow the athletes to go on out and do it. Well, I would like to teach them just a little bit more so it's not just, they don't have to think about it. And also, everything that you do has a right way in which to do it. You have to start with your lead leg. You want mental weight on one foot, and that the other foot is the only one that can move. So that's what EDDs are. And you can throw something in chat. I'm not sure if you'd have anything for me right now, Taylor. If not, I'm going to continue on as we go with offensive information. Okay.
Nothing yet there, Coach, but I will monitor and I'll pop my video up and interrupt you if there's questions on certain topics.
Excellent. That is perfect. Okay, offensive terminology and information. So please don't look at the little triangles. That's defense, and I don't want to pay any attention to that at all. But if your wife, if your girlfriend, if your significant other is sitting with you, or even you're a young athlete that you're coaching your son, I'd hope that I can now talk to him about the X's and O's. I mean, these used to be X's and these used to be O's, but we got a little more sophisticated. And so here's what is, to me, is very important. Now, I will say even to our professional athletes, this is football 101. I want to make sure that they understand that this is the left tackle, this is the right tackle, and we're going to call the guards. I just don't have the box center, but he is the center. With the quarterback here, you could put QB, but you don't need to, because you just put a line down here if you are drawing freehand. And so then I'll tell you. Now, here's what's fun, is W, X, Y, Z. And if I have an extra receiver, some people have called them R. So is this a split end or a wide receiver? People can call them whatever they want to call them, but what do you want your team to call them? Is it a split end or is it a wide receiver? And what we're going to do for this presentation all the way through is that I am going to identify receivers as 1 weak, 2 weak, 1 strong, 2 strong, 3 strong, and then backs do not get identified. Okay. One of the other things that you're going, wow, Tom, that is so elementary, but it's important. It's important for us to have an understanding. You know, we're going to call, so 1W is your widest receiver. Is he an end or is he off the line? If he's off the line because we have double tight ends, then he's a wide receiver. He's not an end. So, you know, I can see somebody who doesn't understand football and you say, well, how come they have so many different names? So no, for this presentation, we're doing 1S, 2S, 3S. If there's 3, if there's only 2 and there happen to be 3 on the weak side, it'd be 1W, 2W, 3W, which means 3 weak. Okay. What I decided to do, so with these being yours that you don't have to worry about writing anything, is what I did is I took over 30 pages of the Edmonton Eskimo defensive playbook, and it's yours. Useful, maybe, maybe not. A lot of you have the expertise to coach on the professional level, and you're going, come on. No, yes. A young man that I had the opportunity to coach with me when I came back to the Calgary Stampeders the second time. When I left Edmonton, it was 11 years, 11 football seasons. I came back down. Gino DiVincentes was with St. Francis and coached with the high school program, but came and showed that, you know what, he had the willingness and desire to be on this level, and he helped us immensely. And so I truly believe that you guys might be a little bit smarter, because the moment that you go to the professional level, that's the moment that you know that you're getting close to being fired. Very few people get to write their own tickets. So defense is in red, and red is stop. Offense is green. That's why those letters. And let's go one step further. So pet peeve, and if you practice on a field that is lined, and I have gone to many NFL training camps when did scouting for Edmonton when I was assistant GM, CFL, watch practices, drives me crazy. The placement of the football always gets put on the line of scrimmage and on a line. What that does is then this receiver doesn't have to do anything. He automatically comes out and puts his foot on the line. So my pet peeve is I always make sure it goes between the lines somewhere. And again, it makes it easier for the defensive lineman if it's on the line. Oh, I'll be just 1 yard off the ball. This wide receiver can actually signal in the CFL to the head linesman or the line judge and say, am I on the line? And he can say yes, but I don't necessarily even have to be on the line. My head can be close enough. But if the corner tries to go and press coverage and he lines up 1 yard off of him, he can easily be thrown a flag. So he has to do it himself. So that's one of the things to be off the line. So what ended up happening is Y went from being a slot back to now being a tight end. The Z, have whatever you want. He's now no longer a split end. He's now a wide receiver. But right now in our system, how we're going to do it tonight, he would be, the strength of the field is this way. He would be 1S, 2S, 1W, 2W. Now all of a sudden the fullback's in. So here's another little bit of a pet peeve. If you make him a square or a triangle, it's easy to identify where the center is, which is perfect. And if you used a oval, just like the G, I like to put an X in them. To identify the fullback and the halfback, so I don't have to put H and F in anymore, I make the halfback a triangle. Excuse me. So from now on, in all the other drawings, he's now going to be a triangle. And the If we have somebody in a rectangle in the backfield, he's the fullback. So halfback, tailback, running back, you're going to see, even with the Edmonton Eskimo playbook, inconsistencies. Is he a tailback or is he a running back? Is he a halfback? Doesn't matter. It's up to us as a team to decide what we are going to call our players from the get-go. So don't have to spend a lot of time now, but here's what would be right out of the playbook. And every playbook that I've ever had, and I've given away every 3-ring binder that I've ever had. And it's a shame, because some of them were outstanding, some were mediocre, but it really is in the execution and the athletes believing in what you're doing and being simple enough. So deuce is just 2 running backs. And so you can see you have a triangle, you have a square. They don't make any differentiation, but they put a C. So the quarterback's in shotgun for 1S, 2S, 1W, 1W, 2W. So if it's this way, okay, they would call rebel, would be having 1 back, 5 receivers. This would be if they come with 3 running backs. It could be a fullback. It could be even offensive lineman, but they would call this full. Identifying receivers. So this is important for us. You can read. Hopefully you can read. Hopefully your screen is big enough. I think they might have done this on purpose so that way when you do copy these pages, it's not a very clean font in which to have. But when you're on the university level and on the professional level, you're always breaking things down. So how do you break things down so that players understand? So if we have 2 receivers on either side, we're calling it a 22. If it's 3 and 1, it's a 31. We're always starting with the strength side. That's what that all of a sudden will do. If there's 4 receivers, 41, we have a 41 with a tight end, 32. And don't worry, we can start moving a little bit quicker, but here's formation and running back sets. So this is where if they were using 2 tight ends, it would be called cannon. Again, this is the Edmonton Eskimos, but I've taken and make sure I worked off of it. The other thing that is interesting, I do want you to know that I did everything by hand that you are seeing. I have not had a template that I could use, and if I did, then I could have made it a little bit prettier, but really to me it doesn't matter. So where with double tight ends or cannon, running back sets, very common, pistol, and a lot of times what we're going to see, shotgun, far. Far means it's the formation's this side, so he's on the other side. If he's towards the formation, our formation strength, it's just called near. Then you can see I, split, far split, near split. Now I'm going to spend some time here. This is another pet peeve. This is a route tree. The interesting part of the route tree, and it's great that we have it. So odd numbers come inside. So we're talking, so we go, and it's only 0, it's 1 to 9. And what's going to be interesting here, if somebody were to count the number of routes that we have, there's actually 16 routes. So you're going, how can we have 16 routes and we're only going 1 to 9? Simple. Let me explain. So we say hitch, okay? That's a 1. And anything that's odd is on the inside. They just have to make sure that they understand. So if we go 2, that's something that's going out. So now 2 is a quick out. 2S is a bang. Now there's a reason for S, and I'll get to that in a second. But 2S is it goes out, and then he tries to come even with a defensive player and comes back inside. So it's a bang. All right. What else is interesting? Let's keep moving up. Let's go with a 3. So we say a 3, you're running a drag. If we say 3, and this is 3S, 3S is a swirl. So you're coming in and now you're pushing out this way. So it's almost the same as a swirl route, but coming inside. So we just go 2S, 3S. So they realize that they swing. All right. 4 is an out. What's interesting is there's no combination off of it, so off of it is a 4W, which is a wheel. Now, so 5 is a curl, 7 dig, diagonal. That should actually be running like this. But they wanted to make it look like the tree, okay? So a post goes towards a goal post. That's how it was originally said that was going to happen. If you go straight, it's an 8. Here, you're going towards the corner. Best quarterback to ever throw corners was Ricky Ray. He could drop it like he's dropping dimes. What's interesting here is run a post. Here, it's POCO, P-O-C-O. Makes sense, okay? Here's a poison. So with the routes 1 to 9, we have this has 2S to it, okay? We have a 3S to here. 3 quick, so it has to be quick. 3 QK is now how you're all of a sudden. 4W, it's a 2, but it's a wheel. So it's still, you go 4W. Now the reason to do this is that we want to be able to have a terminology that we can talk to one another, okay? And so then we have 3 that we name: diagonal, poison, POCO. So here's the backs. The one that I would add is, normal swing. Here's a flat wheel. Here's a stick, okay, angle. I'd still want a hook in one of this, and we'll go over that in a second. So those are the patterns that they have. He has 7, but I would make that 8 because there's going to be a curl in there. Now, here's something that's really important, and you as a defensive coach, here, how do you deal with all of these? Man-to-man coverage, you can say, that's no problem. But when we do zone coverages, what are the advantages and disadvantages? Now, here's again, if you see a dotted line, that he has an option. So this is 265, 73. And they also sometimes will label these, and they would say levels. But I have actually told all the 5 receivers exactly what they're doing, and from 32 far. 6'11", 63. It's right. You got a 6 route, which is corner, and then you have hitch, hitch. So it's really interesting. If now all of a sudden you had your corner and you had a halfback that jumps here, probably he's going to be running away from your nickel, or your Sam linebacker could possibly be open. And again, it's called the smash. So all of these are somewhat important in which to understand why things are, what these do, that if you are in a certain coverage, these can beat different coverages. That's why you mix the coverages up so that they don't really know. But here's a diagonal. So here's interesting to start. D87, that's D, diagonal, 8 and a 7 route. So I'm just giving you an opportunity just to see how it is. Here's just a whole nother other combinations that we want to make sure that we take care of. All right. So if we went to this one with levels, okay, diagonal, 3S, bam, and the 7. All right. So you can do all of these, and you're saying, well, let's get to defense. Yes, we're going to get to defense right now. And know that we're going to go through, and again, not to rush, but to try to make you understand what are the strengths and weaknesses of all of the things that you run. And this will be done also with the players at the University of Alberta this upcoming season. And we're hoping that there is a season to be had. They're anticipating that we can play 5 games. We'll play everybody in the conference once and then go into the playoffs. Okay, we might have a question.
Yeah, just a question about simplifying the naming of route concepts to make film breakdown easier. If so, how do you do it?
Here's an interesting one that you can actually, we had a coach with the Stampeders, Larry Kaharick. Everything had to have a name. So taco was takeoff, corner, out. So that's a 3-level flood. And so you you can do it. So you can do it by names, or you can just say these names that are on top of these. Here's verts, okay? Seams, smash. This is a smash route, and you just got to know the combination. So you can run routes by just find them out. It's a shame. I'm not sure how many of you guys know Shirley Temple. Shirley Temple was an actress that had curly hair. And so it was interesting. Joe Palpal, and again, a name from the past. He was a quarterback in the CFL. He also coached. It was funny that he continued to name. We were playing against Joe Palpal, and we were actually together in Edmonton. And Joe was on the other side of the field, and he yelled out, "Shirley!" And because they were in a no-huddle offense. And I'm thinking, Joe, we know you're going to run curls now. All right, so you can just then build that way, and then you build on up. This is how a pro team would do it. This is how a university team might do it, and hopefully that gets close to answering your question. If not, please hold on to the very end, and we can talk more about it when we can see each other. All right, so this is from the playbook. And again, so what's fun is just understanding the even numbers is head up. So the single digits are for the defense alignment. So if you say 2, I, that's inside. The odd numbers are outside shade. And this is a whole 1-hour session on how to cancel this gap. So if I am a nose tackle, if I'm the nose and I'm in a 2-eye position, this is the gap that I'm canceling. How do you cancel a gap? Here's an interesting way. My body, your body, somebody. Whatever's going to happen, he ain't going to run in this gap because I own this gap. And so that's how it's so critical for the linebackers to know who's responsible for what gaps, because then I'm going to take. So double digits is where then the linebackers line up. I put this in, and you're thinking, man, that's a double whammy. Because all I have to do is look at these guys, and I know where that I'm with a strong. That this is the strong side. This is the wide side of the field. So I'm going to put some of my players that play best on the wide side, the short side. In the CFL and in youth sports, this corner needs to be pretty good because there's a lot of traffic that comes back to the short side here. This is a lot of wide open space. And so I just want to know gap terminology. So we're going strong A, strong B, strong C. Weak A, weak B, weak C. I've seen plus A, plus B, plus C, negative A, negative B, negative C. Some people don't care. They just said, well, I just have the B gap and I'm the tackle, I have B. And if I'm the nose and I have the A gap, well, I have the weak A gap. So now what happens is on the bottom, the moment that we bring in another person to come into the line or move from the backfield up on the line, we now have created a D gap. And so A, B, C, D, responsibilities, simple as that. Let's see how we work. All right, a lot of people, again, I hope the young athletes or any our wives are there, or maybe even a coach that's for the very first time. And I know there's some ladies, I've had a lot of ladies come to coaches clinics that we've had, and they're doing a fabulous job of coaching. They talk about the box. And so I was really pleased that I actually got an opportunity to make a 3-dimensional box. I could have put some dotted lines in the back, but why in the box or outside the box? Okay, so this is what we're saying is the box. Now, here's, again, as you get higher up into playing, a lot of times you get Tom Brady. We don't ever have to worry about Tom Brady to be a blocker. How many blockers do they have? Okay, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If it were a run and he was going to get the football, they could have a 6th blocker if the quarterback is going to run the football. And so this box is not overloaded. This box is what we need for it to be in order to then cancel what we want. So you can see that there's a shade, but this is a canceled gap. I can tell you how to do it, what stance I want you in, what's your step, but I like your second and third steps more important, but make sure that no one runs through that gap. He has this gap, he has this one, he has this one. Should the ball come here, then this linebacker is in here, this linebacker is in here. We go all of a sudden, now we bring a fullback into the box. I'm bringing a player in. So hopefully now you're understanding. Is the box overloaded? No, the box is normal. And again, the box could be light, and people just say, well, we'll let you run the football because we know you can't. So here's now, I'm going to make this a little zigzag. I'd like for it not to have been a staircase, but I'm going to now show you how we're going to cancel these gaps. Here's we come. So we came on over here. Now all of a sudden, we had to have another player come on in because we now could possibly have a D gap in which we're responsible for. So I moved this linebacker over. That's his responsibility now. He moves on over. He comes here. He comes this way. Now, I'm coming up to it because there is a dual responsibility for all linebackers. You have to be able to know if the play goes strong, plus if the play were to go weak. If the play were to go weak, I have to come back over this way because we could actually get a puller, and now all of a sudden, I'm not going to be shifting anybody other than linebackers are going to read it. I got to then make sure that how we play it here, here. So we come over here. I will now have this gap. He will now have this gap because we created a D gap. But the moment that the ball goes past this gap, I am now free to be a free player to go. If you have, and right now these are just 4 down linemen, and we'll go over that in a second. The job of your defensive lineman is to allow these guys to stay free. So if they can gobble up double teams, you're going to have a pretty darn good football team. I want you to know I came up and played a long time ago for the Calgary Stampeders. And my first game that I played with as a Stampeder middle linebacker was a true 4-3. I had 11 unassisted tackles. I tell you this not to say that I was any kind of football player, but I had a guy right here, number 77, John Helton. They could not block him. All I had to do was just run over to the ball carrier and tackle him. That's how good he was. Okay, now all of a sudden, let's go and add a couple more to the box. So we didn't take any out. We kept the fullback in and brought 2 tight ends in. So here's another one, here. And this could be short yardage, but this could be just the way people run. So if this were the case and we're going against double tight ends, this may be how many people I would play as far as he might be a defensive lineman. He might be the defensive lineman. He could be a linebacker. It would be up to you, but let's cancel the gaps. We're just going to say we're here, 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 here. Linebackers. Right now, we're here and here, but if all of a sudden this fullback were to come on out, he's got to move on out. He would have to move on over. He'd slide on over. Be very careful because you could still have something coming back because he had to be able to come back that way. So do you understand the box? Just ask in chat. So now I want to go with 30 front. So now I'm going to start moving a little bit faster, gentlemen. We have now, with this system, this is more of what you would see in the CFL, that they all have 5 receivers. They can even have 6 receivers. But here we have our running back. We have our triangle. We have our quarterbacks in shotgun. We have 5 defensive backs. So now they're in black. We have 4 linebackers. This guy, and I put him in a nice oval shape, he could be a nickel. He could be a tweener. He could be a linebacker. He could be a defensive back. But he's actually outside the box that we already talked about, because there's a lot of times we could line him up so that he's covering this guy. And so you want him to be athletic enough that he can cover that receiver, but he also is big enough that he can be part of the box. So linebackers, D-line, DBs. So we have 3 units in all defenses. So if you were to have coaches I'd love to have 3 coaches. I'd love to have a defensive line coach, a linebacker coach, and a defensive back coach. But if you don't, have 1 coach. Well, have 2. Hopefully 1 that can coach the front and 1 that can coach the secondary. If you're coaching all by yourself, keep it simple so that way, and very fundamentally sound so that you can coach all of them. Now,
there was a question. I'll interrupt you to give you
yeah, absolutely.
There. What about if a team plays 3 wide receivers on the short side?
Perfect.
What would the strong side be?
Yeah, okay. It does not matter. What happens is if all of a sudden this receiver comes over on this side, we now just bump him down and everybody bumps that way. Or you can run them, right? You can run him over if you wanted to make sure you don't have a mismatch. But we're not changing our fundamental sound, all right? Because you have 1 more over there, that's why we have 3 this way. But now you can also do this. You can rotate this way if you wanted to, if you had 3 on this side. So it does not change anything for us. We always go to the wide side of the field. This is a wide side corner. This is the weak side corner, which is the next one. And again, anytime I go too quickly over it, please stay on afterwards. I'll talk to you until the cows come home. So I just wanted to share a clip with you because this is not me. I had nothing to do with the University of Alberta. They played the University of Manitoba. It seemed like sometime early in the year. I now want to take all of those positions and I want to go, here's my strong corner, because here's 1S, 2S, 3S. 2 weak. So what happens is that guy that I had, that's the outside linebacker or the nickel, strong corner, strong half, free safety, weak half, weak corner. They can also be called our defensive linemen. Defensive end, because they're on the outside, defensive end. He could be called the defensive tackle. He could be called the nose. He could be called the nose tackle. He could be called the rush end. He could be just called an end because it's obvious. I have 2 inside linebackers. I can call 1 Mac and 1 Mike. Mac always goes to the strong side of the field. This guy could be called nickel. He could be called Sam. He could be called just S. Now, if you put him to an S, just keep him as an F, or because I don't want to have 2 letters that are exactly the same. That's why sometimes you'll see R and you'll see quick, or you'll just see rush and you'll see an N. And so you don't have any doubled up numbers. So what you're going to be watching, this is what you're going to be watching. It's on this hash, on the offense's right hash, the defense is left. So the strong side is this. So the strength is this. What happened is the defensive ends came inside, the inside linebackers came out. How many blockers do they have? The quarterback should never have been flustered because they only brought 5, and he still had a guy in which an extra guy that could help block. He ran a seam. He ended up running a hook, and you can just see what happens, and do enjoy it. The University of Alberta obviously jumped off sides because this was 1st and 10. And so now you get an opportunity to see, this is my only video, so only get to see 1 play. Just enjoy it for what it is. Okay. Now, the only reason I said to Taylor, I said, you know, I haven't been there, but I went up and there was a couple of practices before the pandemic hit us all. And I was able to get a couple of clips. So I just thought, you know what, I'll throw one because they were running a 30. They ran the inside linebackers. They dogged them, and then bam. Now we're going to talk 40 front. 40 front because I got 4 down linemen. 3 linebackers, and again, now you're going to see red. You also know what these guys are, okay? Free safety. Now you just have to look and see, okay? Here's the strong side, so that's the strong side corner, strong side half. Those are halves, these are corners. 50 front. This is 5 down linemen. And so what, if you are today, you decided what you want to do is with your football team, I'd like for you to be able to leave and know this is what I'd say, be simple, whatever you want. If it's if it's a 40, 50, 30, doesn't matter. Here's the calls that you can make in the very front is you can go right, left, in, or out. And what I would do is I probably put these guys in the gap. But what I would do is if I said right, everybody just goes this way. Bam, 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 bam. And so you're being aggressive. The other thing that I would have as they get experience is when an offensive lineman breaks the huddle and comes on out, if all of a sudden this guy is here and then when the ball is snapped, he ends up being over here, it sometimes changes the blocking for me. Now, I know sometimes they'll do zone blocking, but it still doesn't matter. Allow your defensive lineman to not always be stagnant, just standing there and trying to beat that guy. Give him an opportunity to go right or to go left. So you can go, you call, if you wanted to call, if this is your base front, you don't have to say 50. You just go right, cover 1, right, cover 3, and you can have some fun with it. Now, here's where I like to spend a little bit of time, but I'm going to start moving a little bit quicker. This is when it's zone coverages in the pass zones, we want to make sure that we're telling them what is the area in which you are covering. Now, what was interesting over the years is these used to be markings on the field that, oh, right here, this is the number, and this would be a number. This would be a hash, and this would be a hash. No, it doesn't work that way. So if you're doing a zone coverage, this is a no cover zone. We want to cover the deep and the intermediate routes. Let them throw that, and we'll come on up and make the tackle. So the reason that I like to still have a whole coverage is what people are doing right now is that the quarterbacks know that there's certain things that are happening outside. But if all of a sudden you don't feel comfortable, always know that we're putting somebody that's right over the center, right in the middle, that he's squaring on up. So again, the offensive coaches, we've caught on to you. But now the hook, or let's just say what the flat is. So if I am a corner, the flat is wherever this receiver is. The moment that he comes on in, the flat comes on in. And so the curl is this receiver. The hook is this receiver. So if they are spread out, it just moves out a little bit. So know that if we're on the hash, we are just covering a lot of this part of the field is empty. We're not going to cover it because we will not go any further than the receivers. So now with underneath coverage, here's the post. So the reason it's a post, that's a goal post. Because if that ever gets vacated, we want to be able to have some people that like to take it. So hopefully you have an understanding of what these are. A lot of times people move this to 14, some move it to 12. Whatever you'd like, that's the underneath coverage. I had the opportunity to have Doug Flutie on the football team with the Calgary Stampeders, and we were coming home from an Edmonton game, and we just happened to be on the same bus because usually we split up offense and defense when we go bus up to Edmonton. And I said, Doug, we were just having a great discussion. I said, what's the one play that you could use that you could move up and down the field? And he said, all curls. And I said, all curls. They said, okay, well, why don't you do all curls? It's boring. You know, we need something a little bit different. So what I've just done for you is that here are your underneath coverages. So if I said 50, 55, running back curl, F swing, and again, it could be whatever we call him. The reason that I said 50 is I only have 5 blockers, and I'm going to go 5-step drop, okay? And so now I'm going to run all of my routes. Now, one thing that I'm terribly disappointed in is that with myself is that in the route tree, I don't ever want to see a route be run straight up because you're not challenging the defensive back. I always want to step on his toes. So if he has outside leverage on me, I'm going to step on his toes, step on his toes, step on his toes, make him uncomfortable, and then I'm going to turn and give my numbers to the quarterback. So 55, we said, is already curls. So if he's an outside shade, I'm going to push him hard outside, and I'm going to hook in, right? That's a curl. Same thing. Push him hard outside, I'm going to curl. Here's what is really fascinating. If you don't stay in the post, if there's nobody here, these two guys are meant to read. So if all of a sudden he cheats over this way, this guy gets to run the post, and that's what I'm going to take. So that's why there's the dotted arrows. There's dotted arrows on the receiver routes that give them the option. So 51, 55, running back curl. 51 means I want extra protection. So that means I have 5 protecting plus 1. If I say 52, I have 5 protecting plus 2 people. And then I only have 4 receivers. So just to give you a thought, and it's simple, but yet, you know what? This is what a CFL team would do, and even a university team. I wanted to spend some time just a little bit with the back end if you go into halves. If you go into halves, what's happening is you don't have anybody here, and you also don't have anybody here. So 3 verts can give half coverages some challenges. And thirds, okay? A lot of teams will play a cover 3. CFL is notorious cover 3, but there's a lot of times you can't understand what they're doing because it's not automatically going back. But now what can hurt this is 4 verts. 1, 2, 3, 4, because you only have 3 guys that are deep. And then if you go quarters, you know what? You're very well covered deep. I think I might throw underneath, because the moment that you go to quarters, you're taking defensive players away here. Defensive fronts. What I wanted to do is give you Edmonton's fronts. So now, what you now have is you just have the position. So they call him quick. Nose, tackle, end. Mac, will. Okay? See how they're lined up? Because this is a near formation, because we know the field is this way. So key, man to ball. Okay, you got to cancel your gap. Here's your gap. C, B, A, C, B, A. We got them all covered. We already talked about that. Contain to the ball, gap to the ball, and pass responsibility. They don't put anything in because we didn't give you any coverage. Okay, so now this is the same thing, but it has a little bit of diagrams. I cancel the C gap, I cancel the A gap. I have to cancel B, I have to cancel C. How do I know what my read is? The quarterback is a guy that is going to tell me where the ball is going, because if he hands it off to him, that's the picture I want to see. The biggest thing to teach linebackers, even professionally, is your eyes. Your eyes have to go up and through. See the big picture. You see the big picture, you have it much better. You don't have to see offensive linemen in order to be able to see that picture. You will feel the offensive lineman. And so then the same responsibilities that they just had. Here's now just an over. So it's just shifted the over a little bit over the other way. And so again, they have responsibilities. I have this one because I want to coach this one up a little bit, that we know that all of a sudden the quick has the C gap contained to the ball. Okay, the tackle is aligned in 3. He's a B gap player, strong B. So we can see all of that. So let's do Mac and Will. Mac is a strong A player. Okay, Will is a weak B player. What's wrong with the alignment of the linebackers? Hopefully you guys looked, and I'm shocked that they made this mistake. They didn't catch it. This Mac should be over here because he's not in a good position. Plus, they didn't move him. They just probably had the other clip in, and they just copied it. He needs to be over. He needs to be over. But now the moment that they were to toss him the football, he's a C-gap player, but he might get hit. What I'm doing is the moment that I know that I'm not an A-gap player anymore, I'm strong D. I can fly to it. As I go this way, I'm the strong A, because the play is not coming to the B. I'll take the strong A, come back, and then the moment that that goes past that, I'm a free player. If it were to come this way, and all of a sudden I have C, but if somebody comes in to block or he gets lost, I can now help him with D. The moment that someone from the outside should bring in a defensive back. But what I wanted you to see is just how simple this is. You can do this with all of your defenses. What's your alignment? Okay, here's a 10 and a 50, which we know that they're lined up incorrectly. It should be more of a 10 here, 50 over here. Okay, this is now just heads. And again, these are just for the Edmonton Eskimos, and this is what they play. Bat, it starts in a head front, and then the Mac gets to move him however they choose. And so it's fun. And again, I don't know if I'd have them lined up this way with the back there. I'd have them a little bit more stacked that way. And here's tight, which means they're inside. So there should be no way that they could run inside. But now where Mac is a B, Will is a B. Wide. Now you're vulnerable up the middle. But again, doesn't matter because we'll take whatever comes because we're anticipating they're going to go outside. We can actually do some line stunts and we can still move from this. We can actually start in tight. We can start in heads and we can go wide. We can start in heads and go tight. We can start in heads and go left. We can start in heads and go right, strong and or weak. So again, what we're going to do again in defensive coverages, I just want to know, and nobody in the middle, it's cover zero. That means we are sending some pressure. What I also put down right now, okay, defensive linemen are going, we can call it whatever we want. You'll see some of the calls that are going to be made because you have a lot more Edmonton Eskimo playbooks coming on up here in a second. I just put little ovals in, there's dotted lines. How you cheat, whether you're cheating outside, if you're cheating inside, all depending. The biggest thing that you don't want to have happen is you don't want to give them the inside because that's too easy. Force them to have to throw outside. But what you really do want to do is you always want to key the quarterback. Is this a blitz? You can say yes or no. Hopefully you're just shaking your head one way and or another. You could say neither one. If you said yes, it's a blitz, I will say you're correct. If you said no, it's a blitz. The reason that I say it might not be a blitz is you're not sending more than they can block. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have a 6 blocker. I can block. If you knew he was a free release, who blocks him? Okay, all you offensive coaches, coach quarterback, BYOB. And it's cute, but be your own blocker. You know he's free. You know we might be able to get a guy out. Is it a blitz now? It all depends what you say. Anytime you send a defensive back, you can call it a blitz. But what I'd like to do is say a blitz is when I got more than they can block. Now he's in trouble. He's going to have to get rid of the football quickly. But that's what you want when you go to cover zero. Playing cover zero, he knows who's going. I'm sending all the linebackers, so that means this guy, he's going, and somebody's coming free. If they come down and try to block, that's fine. We got him off the edge free. He's got to take one and make sure you control, keep leverage on the quarterback. Don't let him go outside, reverse pivot, come under control. Try to get the football out when you're blocking. Here's cover one. So cover one is now you just have one deep. So now you're playing man-to-man coverage. I'm coming with 4. Here's, again, our nickel, and this can be a mismatch. but not if this guy is athletic enough to cover receiver. He has the running back. So if the running back comes out this way, he could take him. If the running back goes strong, he could take him. Or Mac and Will can be an E, blitz and engage. So he can come on in so that he stays in. So the biggest thing, though, if you come through this gap, you want to make sure that he's going to be blocking you, that he doesn't go on out, because that's still your responsibility. So cover one is man-to-man free, okay? And you can spend all the time that you want. These clips are yours to hang on to, so here's a responsibility up front. Here's all the responsibilities that we have. So we do have post help, and everybody else is man-to-man, and then we coach it up. This is 32, and they call it glue, or they call it sticky. What's it really interesting? Cover one. Why do they call it two names? One of the things that's another pet peeve is that the players on the other team are not dummies. Hey, what's the coverage? Cover one. No, it's glue. But I mean, if you say glue enough, you know what? They might be able to get it that, you stick like glue or sticky, right? You're playing man coverage. So that's why they just had two names for it. Why? I don't know. Teach your players not to yell out whatever else it needs. The only time that there would really be adjustments is on if it were 41 would create, and they actually had they always audibled out the bulldog, and then whatever bulldog was, he got me because I was only there for a short period of time. I didn't learn everything that they had. Okay, so cover two. What's really nice here about cover two is that man underneath is huge because we got 6 underneath. And so the biggest challenge is if they send people up the seams, okay? Because we only have that 2 deep. And so we have a flat player want to be aggressive. Come on, okay. So we have two hooks, we have curl, we have flat. Who do I curl on? This is the guy. Who am I flat on? So if he comes in tighter here, if he comes on out, I come back out on this side and I work my depth. All right. So cover two man. You got to understand, there's strength and weaknesses in every defense that you have. This is a really good one. The two disadvantages are you're playing man-to-man coverage with usually this linebacker on this receiver, but you know that you can get some help this way. And we're covering all of our guys up. If this is a scrambler, we're in trouble because there's nobody to actually cover him. If Doug Flutie knew that you were in 2-man and he drops on back and you turn your back, I'm running. And so that's what will happen. So just know that, hey, it's a great coverage. It's a great changeup too, as well. So 2-man. So now let's go into the cover threes. Now, with having cover 3, that means there's 5 underneath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Unless I send one. If I were to send him, I'm now sending 5, but I can then still play because I got 4 underneath. I can go hook to curl, curl to flat. So if all of a sudden now he comes and goes this way and he comes inside, guess what? He's pushing out, I push out as well. So as I'm dropping, I'm always looking at the receivers, but also the quarterback. So my head's on a swivel. I take a really quick peek. I see out of the peripheral. I come back to the quarterback because quarterback's going to tell me everything. So I have a hole player because all of a sudden, if he's the guy who's hanging in the middle, we got it covered. All right? So we have cover 3. This has so many different variations, and I'm going to show you one right now. So instead of what we had is 3, the corners were covering deep thirds. We'll have the corners take care of the curl flat and have the halfbacks come on out. So that's double. People call double cloud, double cut, because they just use a C. So if you do double cut, so other variations is we can have strong cut, strong corner, whatever you want, 3. So what happens a lot is this is not a bad way in which to take care of this baby, okay, is you have a 3-week cut on the side. Still 5 underneath, but it's a change up. So here's, the only thing that they did that was different is they put nail cover 3. Nail meant is I wanted to send an additional pressure. So they just sent the nickel, and they called them nickel. And so they send them up the B gap, and now I still have my thirds. 1, 2, 3, and I'm curl the flat, and then I'm here, my hook to curl, hook, and again, because we have here, so this is a hook player, this is a hook player, this is a curl player. For alignment, this is a flat player, all right? Nail cover 3 with a 23. So what's the difference? Not much, other than there is now an opportunity to have an extra player here, hook off of the running back, might even be hole off of the running back, because we want to read, but we actually have 2 backside, and you can push that way, but you're actually coming more this way because you have 1, 2, 3, 4 receivers. Under gecko, I just threw this in. I just wanted you to see how there's different variations of coverages, and we're going to move a lot quicker now with what we're talking about. I wanted to do cover 4 because this is huge. If you're getting a lot of verts and you're getting a lot of challenges, here's a great way in which to actually play to take care of the 4 verts. What's now difficult is the underneath coverage, because you're just playing 4 under, right? If this went curl, this went curl, this went curl, we have trouble, because I'm gonna stay on him. I will stay here. I make that curl get thrown because I'm not going to push out if this guy still stays here, right? He's going to throw on out, and then we just got to go and make the tackle. Okay, so cover 4, nice variation. Love it as a change-up, but here's a variation that is really, really popular. It's a variation. It's called cover. Some people cover 4 umbrella. It's a variation of 4, but this, I don't like using the word cheat, but you are robbing, you are reading, okay? You do not go deep unless something takes you deep. You read these 3 receivers. You can just start a little bit, but you hang here. So when this is broken down, there's a lot of times if all of a sudden this guy ran a wheel and I ran with him, it's going to look like it's 3 deep if this guy stays short and you're breaking me down. But it's no, we're playing umbrella. How do you know? You don't know. So this is a really nice variation of playing cover 4, that what you have to do is you just read what's happening. Read here, inside, read here, and all you do is you just make sure you're backing up lazily. You just cheat it. You're reading it. You don't go into the deep quarter unless one of these 2 take you. If all of a sudden he goes up the seam and he goes up that way, we're going with them, and it's going to look truly like a cover 4. And then I know that I'm free where he comes on out, no cover zone. So that's just, again, a variation. Here's umbrella. Now, you're going to look at it and you're going to go, oh, wow, really? They're going the wrong place. He should go here, he should go here, he should be here, and he should be here. Correct. What they're teaching is read the quarterback. If the quarterback looks weak, they're jumping it. And so all of a sudden they're jumping over this way, which is rather interesting. So again, I've just given you an opportunity just to see the differences, but know that it's umbrella. Instead of here's the pressure that we're sending, all right? They're all up on the line and they're just going. And just another neat way in which to see. Okay, what, and again, Coach, we're gonna, yes.
Coach, there's a question there on the umbrella. Just back to your umbrella there, isn't it, one question is, isn't your umbrella like the pattern matching?
Yes, yes. You sure are, except the people who are doing the matching are more out here that are comfortable with doing it. You can also, if you wanted to do a box or a match coverage, you can still do it. This man would be a wall. somebody has to be outside. He'd go high and he'd be up on top. And so he is a wall player. If one of these guys come through this way, he has to run with them. Okay, so this is reading routes. If you had two, so do you understand what the box is? Here's one, here's the second, here's three, here's four. What beats match coverage is all of a sudden somebody goes inside the box. And it also, you can bang it one way and or another, but then you are truly just reading. If you are always, because what I could do is man up here and we can triangle this. And we're going to play zone coverage. So we can just play basketball, make it really simple. If all of a sudden we had four guys over here, four receivers, and we have a tight bunch, we can play basketball with the tight bunch. We'll go one outside, one inside, one high, and let's just play and just say, hey, don't spend a lot of time on it. If you want to be really good at it, you can spend as much time as you like to be good at it. So hopefully that was helpful as far as the answer was concerned. There's not as we don't bring the linebackers into the reading part as much when this occurs, because he doesn't have to do much reading because he knows that he is still going to be an underneath player. He can be going high, or he could still be staying low. He could be going high or staying low. He knows that I have two people. Two could be high, or one could be high, and he in the corner and I are together. This defensive pressure, here's a cover zero pressure. The free safety's coming on over and taking 3 weeks. And again, I'm just giving you an opportunity just to see what a professional team would do. It looks much better before I copied it, because somehow it just didn't come out as clean as you'd like. But know that these are now in your possession. Okay, this is just an opportunity to. They call it a run blitz, but all of a sudden, if here's an adjustment, what do? Free safety just runs over with three strong that's going 3 weeks. If there's a double tight end, then or if there's down below, 2 week is a tight end, still makes no difference because I had 2 week. He just moved on in. Psycho week is still a zero blitz, and they have reasons for it, but weak means he's coming that way. Here's Mad Dog Umbrella. Now here's what's really interesting is their halves are going high, and the only two underneath. So you're hopefully creating enough pressure. You're gambling. You're just having some fun gambling, because this is tough to pick up. One of the things about these drawings is this should be tighter in here. That's first. This one should be contact here, and the cross should occur over in this way. This line shouldn't be circular that way. It should be straight like that. But know that they do it for clarity's sake, but a lot of times you get what you draw. Strong umbrella. And so now we know we're coming from the strong side. And can we land? Sure we can. And again, but know that it's umbrella. Okay, wave umbrella. Again, there's a variation because now we're doing off of 23. There's a obviously big mark trade. So obviously meaning something, you're checking off. A wave umbrella. Situations. This is something that has to be practiced. Each one. The first two are go without saying. If all of a sudden they bring in two tight ends, we're going to take our corners out and our free safety out. We're going to bring in two linebackers and a defensive lineman. So this is going to give us our best chance to stop whatever they're running, because we're going to run through, try to create a whole new line of scrimmage, man to man here. Okay, Mac and Will, keep yourself some distance. Don't creep up, because we want to be as deep as the ball carrier so we can actually come and hit on up. This is 54. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 linebackers, 1, 2, 3, 4. Something we didn't go over, but we did go over 50 front, but 4 linebackers means we only have 3 defensive backs. Okay, so that's your goal line defense, but this is Edmonton Eskimos, was Edmonton Eskimos. So if all of a sudden it's 3rd and 1 and we have to line up and quarterback sneak probably, okay, again, Mac, everybody's doing gaps, through. Do not just go to your belly. Try to establish a new line of scrimmage without being flat. Miles, last play of the game. Please do work this. This is something that's very, very important. You always want to have someone behind the football. So your free safety, when the ball gets thrown up in the air, you always have somebody behind. We try to create a triangle around the ball, and we just try to make sure that it gets either intercepted or just knocked down to the ground. And that's always a nice one in which to work. Love what Pete Carroll did. If you haven't seen it, please take a look at it. It is really neat. I've now started the teaching that it's all shoulder tackling. Your head is out of it. There's no such thing as chest plate tackling anymore. And I have a way in which to coach it. Look, fit, hit, wrap, roll, or drive. So you're going to either roll with the tackle or you drive with the tackle. So look keeps your head up. Fit is a positioning that you are in before you put your shoulder in. We hope, and it's really nice. If I were Pat, I'd be on Sheehan. I mean, he's on Thursday, so I think I need to watch his and see what he has in store for everybody else in U Sports. But we will never, ever tackle in practice. We will only go to look, fit, hit. The hit becomes with 2 hands right on the belt, always concentrating where the ball is. If I can put 2 hands on the ball carrier, I know I can make the tackle. And then when we get into a game, I would anticipate that we're longing to get our shoulder in. And the shoulder does not have to be, your head does not have to be in front. We're just saying, hey, be in the right spot, get your feet where it needs to be properly, look, fit, hit, wrap, roll. And it's a really good way. Somebody will miss a tackle because they don't keep their head up or eyes up. They didn't get the tackle because they didn't put their feet in the proper position before. The moment the feet are in the proper position, they should have a great opportunity then to hit with the shoulder. Look, reach, catch, tuck, tap. You're going to go, what in the world? How to catch a football. Look, reach, catch, tuck, tap. So again, there's just cues and ways in which to do, and this is really one that I think is really important. So please, if you haven't seen the Seahawk tackling YouTube, it's worth the 21 minutes and 21 seconds long. They do a really nice job. You know, I'm humbled, and I am the person that I am because of all of the coaches that I've had. I was able to play Pop Warner football, junior high, high school, university, professionally, and it's true that a coach will impact more young people in a year than an average person does in a lifetime. And so for that, I say thank you for all the parents who have allowed their children to be coached under you, and I hope you continue to have success and enjoy the journey that the players allow you to go on. And I'm looking very much forward to it. If you are in Edmonton during the football season and you'd like to drop by, please feel free to do so. Also, if the good Lord willing, we might even have a summer camp this year. We've been holding summer camps for the last 4 years. We had to call our combine off because of the pandemic. But before I would leave to Edmonton, sometime in August, might have here a camp. I live in Calgary. I will live in Edmonton for the football season, and then I get to come back. And I know I pressured Taylor. would actually, if these are done again, I'd love to be back. And I covered so much space that I felt like, you know, I went through it quickly, but hopefully even the offensive coaches took a couple of things away that were somewhat beneficial that you can then apply to your team. There's a few things that by me doing this, it's a reminder of how important the little things are, and it's attention to detail. And it's also about having a lot of fun in doing so. I talk to athletes, even professional athletes, you know, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. So I thank you for that, and I'm staying on until everybody hangs up. So let's hear some questions.
Yes, thank you very much, Coach Higgins. I really appreciate it. Before people kind of take off, I just want to remind people Thursday, there is Coach Sheehan with the Calgary Dinos chatting offensive systems. And we still have a slate full through until the end of May and early June. So this session has been recorded. Coach has already shared his PowerPoint presentation. I'll send it out here once the recording finishes downloading. I'll send that out probably tonight or tomorrow morning. So with that being said, feel free to ask questions through the chat or pop your video on if you want to talk to Coach Higgins directly, and we'll go from there.
Hi, Coach Higgins. Do you have time for a question?
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? One of our most precious commodities in life is time.
Yeah.
And we've been given a lot of it right now. And so, yeah, I'm blessed. Please, ask away.
One of the problems that we have perpetually had is our rush end or our rush quick ends, whatever you want to call them, getting far too deep, especially in a zone run concept by the offense where they're over pursuing that C gap so deep. How do you keep those quicks or rushes or ends? How do you coach that up for them?
Well, I'd like to say that it's also, I went on video now, so you can see I put on my University of Texas t-shirt. My son-in-law went there and got a master's. Here's with all defensive linemen must operate 1 yard across the line of scrimmage.
Right.
And so the moment that we cross that line of scrimmage is the moment then we either shuffle or we collapse. But the biggest thing is to come under control, so that way we're always pushing from inside out, not outside in. It's every Sunday, CFL games, NFL games, you're always seeing that offensive tackle just pushing them on by.
Yeah.
It does no good. That's where I lost most of my hair is, you know, when you're teaching and you're going, you weren't taught, teach the steps to get just past the butt of the offensive tackle and then come under control. And then you have a better chance. Plus the other thing too is when they get there and they tackle the quarterback, my question is, I'm always happy for you, but could you have gotten the ball out? We want the ball more than we want the sack. And so I don't know if there's anything real other than continue to, you know, have a dummy that's the offensive lineman, make them do a rip or a swim, and then have another dummy that actually simulates the quarterback. But if you actually have a trainer that doesn't mind, because the moment that he feels pressure, quarterback should step up. What you can do with your defensive tackle or your nose, they close the front part of the pocket. If you were to break down Tom Brady, who is the GOAT, when he is at his worst is when he cannot step up to throw.
Right.
So if you can put some pressure in on the guys, how to fit that pocket. But I don't know that there's any magical anything that you can tell them other than how they have to work to get under control, and then possibly have a quarterback there that will spin out and just if you have a quarterback that does it and you just try to get the quarterback to be frozen, you win. I mean, I think if you can give them enough positive reps at it, they might get a feel for exactly what you would like to have happen.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Hey, continue to enjoy. Good luck this year.
Right on. Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Great. So feel free to jump on, turn your video on if you'd like. There's something in the chat here. Thank you very much for the presentation. Do you have a contact email? And would you feel comfortable sharing if we can come up with any other D questions? So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Use my Shaw.
Yeah.
It's at tom.higgins@shaw.ca.
That's a pretty easy one, and I'll make sure that I put that email address within the recap email.
Oh, please do. Please do. You know what? We're all coaches for life, and anybody that would like to have any more information, please do. There's so many things I would have liked to have continued to do. It's tough to do such a broad topic, and again, it's nice to just feel good that, you know what, there's so many people that are concerned and care. And again, another thing that really blows me away is how good the football is in the province of Alberta. I found out that Quebec was pretty good, but not as good as Alberta. And it's just because I think the coaches care and the players are, putting some time and effort into it. And it's not that we want to produce players that go on to play university or play professionally. What the values that they get out of playing football is lifelong. We're producing some great citizens that are going to do some great things.
This one might put you on the spot a little, and maybe you could look it up, but somebody agrees with the hawk tackling. It's a great video, excellent video. Have you seen any blocking videos that are good that you would recommend? It's more on the offensive side, but you've coached it all.
Yes. One of the things that we've been doing, and my wife has been part of it, is if you're on social media, we have been able to find, every once in a while, we'll find an offensive blocking that is excellent. I don't have any right off the bat that come to mind, but there are quite a few coaches that do a fantastic job. And I had the opportunity to put on 2 Coach of the Year, Nike Coach of the Year coaching clinics. And one of my favorite coaches is Chris Sweet, who coached here in Calgary with the Stampeders, then coached with me out in Montreal. He came up to Montreal and did a fantastic job. It's one of the most highly skilled positions. Again, it's highly skilled because you're operating in a phone booth. You don't have, you make one false step, you're done. So it's footwork, it's balance, it's everything, being able to deliver a blow. But one of the things that's critical, and here's where success occurs between an offense and defensive lineman. I try to ingrain in a defensive lineman, whoever gets their hands on them first usually wins. So, but you have to be balanced when you have your hands on them. So there's a lot of things that a defensive lineman can do to try to unbalance, but the offensive lineman, get a great base and get your hands on them right away, and you have a chance of always being successful that way.
Yeah, on that same topic, we will be having an offensive lineman specific hour here on Zoom. I think it's June 2nd or June 4th. It'll be more positionally based conversations. And Coach Mike Wilson from our Team Alberta, U16, U17, also Crescent Heights High School in Calgary will be chatting about offensive line. He has a lot of drills and techniques on offensive line.
Excellent.
Defensive linebackers, as an example, any coaching tips on how to help players use their hands effectively?
Yes.
For example, shedding blocks for linebackers.
Yes, absolutely. That's another half-hour presentation, which is okay. Here's how I would teach. On your knees, so that way then you don't have to worry about the lower body. And when you are going to hit a offensive player, so we're knee to knee with our player, and so your arms are straight down. You don't bend your elbows to come out to hit, okay? What you're doing is you're bringing your arms from your hips and locking out. Locking out. It's the lockout that allows you to have enough extension so that they cannot get into your body. And so it's no different than if you were punching somebody. The punch that you want is the one that you can completely extend. So that's what we're looking for. Thumbs are towards the carotid artery, and you hit with your fingers close to being closed. I'd love to try to show you some video of it. It's part of the EDD, and it was on your knees, how to deliver a blow and keep it extended. And once you have them extended, there's also another opportunity for you. There's a 6-inch punch in your arms that you can actually extend with that helps create separation. And again, if you only want to stuff an offensive lineman or a running back if you have to. You would rather avoid contact at all costs, but you still have to teach them how to deliver a blow because maybe a third of the game you're going to have to use that technique. So it's tough to explain. It's easier to demonstrate. So please, if you're in Calgary, I can, hopefully if we have a little camp, I'll tell you, come on out and I'll show you all the different steps towards it.
Great.
If you're in Edmonton and you see me, you and I will both get down on our knees and we'll hit one another. And I'd be happy to show you. Perfect.
It's funny you say that. I've met you one time in person at a Dinos coaching clinic about 3 years ago, and you were doing something similar like that. You seemed so approachable, accommodating, and I remember you were talking to another coach just one-on-one in the hallway when I walked by, and what are you doing? And you were like teaching a technique. I don't remember exactly what it was, but so that's great. I turned my video off because no one needed to see me when you were doing that. So any teaching tips for linebackers to wall off?
To wall off.
Yeah.
Yes. Everything is just I like the 4-way one-step drill. And so you have as many linebackers you can tier them. And you are the coach who's actually making the step. So I'll step with my right foot forward, and they will all step with their left foot. And so it forces them then to take a one step, they reposition their weight, and they step with whatever foot that I move. So it's my right foot goes, their left foot goes. If my left foot goes, their right foot goes. So they're mirroring my step. And the other 2 steps with it is backwards. So if you turn your shoulder, you point your toe. So what I'm doing is they can read by seeing me, seeing the big picture. Plus, if they're off, if you have like 8 athletes, there's some off to the side. I don't want them looking in. I still want them looking straight. So if I step backwards with my right foot, they step back with their left foot. And the same thing, if I do my left foot back, then they do their right foot back. Your elbow also helps you turn and pivot. But that position of the turn and pivot is where the wall comes in. And you always want to make sure you're working from inside out. So you're working from the line of scrimmage, so that way, if he wants to go underneath you, he's welcome to go underneath you, but I'm going to make it very difficult for him, and he's going to have to run into me. So it's with my body that I'm turning. It's that backward step. So that was the one-step drill. But that's what puts myself in the proper position to actually take a quick peek, and then I become a wall player, but then I have to just be slow. Another thing is, the toughest thing sometimes with linebackers is when they are going to cancel their gap. And so it's to my right side, I have to go slow. I have to be from inside out. If I go too fast and I go even or past, I lost. So everything is always inside out. So there's really a good drill again with, you just face one another 5 yards apart and you just shuffle. So one is the running back and you just have him shuffle. I shuffle, but I'm always behind you. And then if he turns his shoulders, I turn my shoulders, but I still stay behind you. So you can do it for 5 or 15 yards and then eventually allow the running back then to close the gap and try to just come right to his line, and then have your linebacker who's doing the shuffle, turn, look, fit, hit, look, fit, hit. So he's doing the same thing. He's looking, he puts his feet right where they need to be, and I would actually use my shoulder, but I'm not, but I'm putting both hands right on his hip, right on his belt. So hopefully that's again, just another little coaching tip.
Yeah, this one might be a little bit harder to explain in short term, but teach your DBs how to read cover 3. How do you teach your DBs to read cover 3?
Everything that we do is met with your eyes. Okay, so DBs, if I am a corner, I have more time and distance in which to play. And so it's where you have your leverage and what you're teaching. So I'm trying to teach inside out because I always want to know what is the inside receiver doing, because they complement one another. Now, the reason that I spent so much time with the combination patterns is those are the ones that you want to look at, even with your offensive coaches, and go, man, this one's a bugger to be able to do. Because all of a sudden, if I have hitch by strong 1, strong 2, can I see 3? So the strong 3, he's running a corner. I need to be able to take care of it. Now, the challenge is if it's so if we cut the corner, so the corner's now playing the curl flat, that means the halfback, are you seeing number 3 so you can play deep? So it's all about trying to read the inside receiver. So I think that's the best thing that you can say. What do you mean I don't read the guy that I'm on? No. Even man-to-man coverage, if you're in press man, you don't have a choice. You can't, you won't be able to read anything else. You're on your man, you got to stay on your man. But if you're loose man, you can still then, there's always complementary routes that go with each. So if you can start to teach what complements one another, that's when you have a chance. So that's the short-term answer to reading cover 3.
Or a similar topic, at what level should DBs start reading the quarterback while taking their eyes off the receiver to play the ball?
You never really ever take your eyes off the receiver, but you can always still see the quarterback. You can feel the receiver. You know where the receiver is. If you are starting, whatever the cushion that you allow, and you look inside, the biggest key that you have is the guy that has the ball. There's a point in time where you can get them to know that now it's on to the receiver, because you can only go so long. The one thing that you'd like to always be able to take away is the quick pass. Because don't be backing up and all of a sudden he runs a hitch and I'm 12 yards off of him and he's catching the ball. So there should be no reason that I backpedal if I can watch the quarterback, because I'll know right away whether the quarterback is going to throw right away or if I have some time that I can then, it's not cheat, it's gain an advantage.
Okay, I think that's all we have for questions. Once again, anybody feel free to throw your camera on if you want to ask a question directly. Any plans to expand the Canadian Football Academy or Nike Coach of the Year Clinic to Northern Alberta now that you're spending a little bit more time in Edmonton?
Yes, we've been really successful, and their labors of love, because it's when you go into clinics, we told Nike that thank you for your help. We like to bring some American coaches up, but half of our coaches are going to be coming from Canada. This year in Calgary, we were really fortunate to have Chuba Hubbard's running back coach. And I'm so proud of him for going back to school because that's the right thing to do. There is a very good chance that, you know what, we would, but we'd only do it with the know of the ability to have Football Alberta support it, but also University of Alberta. Because when we do them in Calgary, we always let the universities know that we're there. The Stampeders always know that we're there putting these on. When we went to Montreal this year, we got in touch with the Montreal Alouettes and all of the, we also had McGill we got in touch with. We got in touch with Laval as well as University of Montreal. Had a couple of coaches from University of Montreal. A couple that I coached with, Danny Machocha, we had come, and also Jason Hogan, who is the running back coach, who's done a good job. So the answer is, sorry for the long answer to a question, a very good possibility. If Chris would like for us to run one, we probably would do it.
Okay. I just have one final question, or my own personal question. It's kind of not do anything at all with defensive systems. The Edmonton-Calgary rivalry and how you're kind of been on both sides of it. And, you know, I'm actually, I have an Oilers jersey in the background, but the Oilers Flames, the Eskimos Stampeders, the Bears, the Dinos, just Calgary and Edmonton in general, there's that rivalry, that battle of Alberta.
Yeah,
and,
fantastic.
You've been on both sides of it, and now you're back in it again. Like, what's your, I don't really have a question here other than like, what's your thoughts on the battle of Alberta? And it's interesting that you go in between. There's not a lot of trades in between. You seem to be trading back and forth.
So if I can share a story so that gives you a feel for it, is that I had spent, when I decided to get into coaching full time, I started with the Stampeders. That was after I was with the Dinos for 3 years. We won a Vanier Cup, and then we were with Calgary for 9 years, and all of our kids were born in Calgary, started to raise in Calgary, and Hugh Campbell convinced me to come on up to Edmonton, and we had to tell our kids. No, we didn't have to. We wanted to tell our children. And our son, straight face, looked me right in the eye and said, "Dad, we can't go to Edmonton. We hate the Eskimos." And the answer was, "Not anymore." So it was a great 11 years. But I think the rivalry is what really fantastic. When somebody takes it too far to an extreme, then it becomes ridiculous. But I went to school at North Carolina State. I went down there and they said you only had to win one game a year to be successful. And I'm thinking, man, that's warped thinking. What do you mean? All you have to do is beat North Carolina and it's a successful year. And I'm going, really? You know, no, I want to go to some bowl games. We want to win some football games here. But you just understand the rivalry. It's great to have good rivalries. And so it's when you have the mismatches, that's when it's not as much of rivalry as it should be. But one of the reasons that I came on up was I really wanted to know what the Evil Empire was about, the EE standing for Evil Empire. And I had that opportunity. You know, it was about the culture that was there. And it was created by Hugh Campbell and the players, and then Dwayne Mandrusiak. And he understands that he's helped keep that culture alive. And there's some times where it has waned a little bit, but it's great to be involved with rivalry games, and it's always neat to be in those because it's just nice to know that people care a lot about, you know, the rivalries and, you know, who wins, and it just makes for a nicer meal after a victory.
Perfect. Well, I wear the A on my hat, and I'm employed by Football Alberta, but I'm happy to see you back in Edmonton. I'm born and raised in Leduc, and I'm an Oiler and an Eskimo, 100%. So, last question of the night. You're an American, but you grew up in America, but you've been here a long, long time. You're probably a hockey fan now, but is it Oilers or Flames?
Well, you know what? I saw a lot more Oiler games because the Edmonton Eskimos we always had the Carnival of Champions, And, you know, I actually had the opportunity to see a lot more. And it's easier to say the Oilers for sure, because I have a much better personal relationship with. We were in the rafters. We brought our Grey Cup banners over. That was many years ago.
Just leave it there. Good answer.
Yeah,
That's fine.
you betcha, my friend.
But thank you very much again. We've recorded it. I'll download it and we'll send it out here probably later tonight, tomorrow morning. And I really appreciate it. I look forward to session number 2 sometime maybe next year.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it already. You take care. Enjoy. Stay safe.